Hello everybody and welcome back to The Hobby Musician. Now if this is your first time here, we're so glad that you're joining us, and don't miss out on all the opportunities that you can have to connect with us. You can click the subscribe button below, or you can check us out on social media, or even support the channel with our official merchandise. And you can find all of those links in the description box of any one of our videos. Now with that out of the way, today it's time for another Deep Thought. Now these episodes on our channel give us the opportunity to talk about broader themes or perspectives about music in general. Now I always start out with a disclaimer that it is true that the things I say are truly my perspectives and my opinions, but I always make a very special promise. Every time that I make a claim or give my opinion about something, I'm going to do everything that I can to support that claim with evidence and examples, so that I'm just not another one of those videos out there screaming about this or that without backing it up. Now last season we put up a video on our channel where I talked about some of the main reasons why I have chosen to use a modular unit for years and years now. Now in that video I started off by telling people that, look, I don't want to get into the conversation about are modulars better than amplifiers or not, because that video had different goals. I had a different idea for that. But this is where I want to start that conversation. I want to focus a little bit on where I have seen the music industry and just the performance of music has changed in about the past 20 years, and where we are here in 2020 when it comes to guitar gear. And I'm going to start out by saying that we have truly arrived into the age of the modular. Now, of course, when I say modulars, I'm not talking about just one brand in particular. I'm including multiple companies and multiple products into this, including folks like Kemper who talk about profiles of amps instead of models of amps. But I'm really just looking at this idea of digital reproductions of amplifiers or effects. And I'm really making the claim that we are living in the age of modulars. And I can kind of back that up by pointing out that over the past 5 to 10 years, there have been a lot of common criticisms when it comes to tone purists and professionals who have been in the game for decades and decades talking about gear. They talk about amplifiers, they talk about pedals that they've had, and the common critiques of many modeling units has been, well, the real, quote unquote, real gear just sounds better, or the real gear gives me an experience that I don't get from the modelers. And that has been a common way to dismiss these units as not being as good. And I'm here today to show some evidence and to really back up the idea that those kinds of criticisms are just losing. They're just losing ground, and although there may have been a time, even 10 years ago, where some of those things were true, we are no longer living in that kind of a place. Now to start out, I want to talk about this critique of people saying that modelers don't give the player the same feeling. Now, what they mean by this is many players will say that as they play guitar through a real amp, that cabinet and that speaker pushes air, and that in addition to hearing the tone that you're getting out of that, there is actually a physical feeling. The movement of air presses on you, and as you play softer or as you get louder, there is a dynamic shift in the feel of playing through that amplifier. And as I said, commonly people have pointed out that, well, a modular unit, if you put on headphones and you can hear the tone of the amp, but if you're playing through headphones, you really just don't get the feeling. And I would say that only by the dictionary definitions of the words of that phrase, that's the only way that you can say that that statement's true. because we have a situation of comparing apples to oranges over and over again. I've watched videos and I've read forum posts where people point this out and they say, well, I just don't get the feel through headphones that I do playing through my amp. And you're comparing apples to oranges. You would not get the same feel from your amplifier if you took your amplifier, put it in a different room, ran a microphone cable into headphones, and then played it that way. The physical movement of air requires a cabinet. And we're living in an age where companies are putting out fantastic powered cabinets, studio monitors. There are all sorts of ways that you can take a modular unit and put it through some kind of cabinet device that will move air. And I don't even have time to list all the videos online that you can see people talking about the quality of the feel once you're starting to play through these devices that we have access to today. Now, a great example of the shift in kind of a thinking is this clip from Andertons TV. Now, they run a phenomenal channel, and they have demonstrators and folks on their shows that have spent their entire lives in the music industry. They know guitars and they know amplifiers like nobody else. But this video came out a few years ago, and it really struck me as one of the first times where I noticed we are truly in a different time. Lee Anderton and Rob Chappers are going through, and they're actually asking the question, is a modular as good as an amp? And what they've done in their video is they've removed this apples and oranges situation. They've taken both products and put them through all the same signal chain coming out of the same cabinet, but all the amps are in a different room and they can't see which one is being played at what point. And the beautiful part of this video is it's a fairly lengthy video, but by the end, you can just see, you can pause the video. There's a moment in there where Lee is faced with kind of a shocking revelation. They both kind of go into this video being very clear. They're very confident that they could pick out which one was the fake amp and which one was the real amp. And almost the entire time, they were wrong. They were simply picking out, and they would qualify their comments. They would say, I can tell this is the real amp because of such and such. And they were just wrong each and every time. And at the end of the video, there is a moment where you can get a great screenshot of Lee just having like a meltdown of his worldview, because he's realized, he was faced with the reality that once you treat this unit, and they were using a Kemper in the video, once you treated this unit to the same things that you would treat a normal amp, not only wasn't there a noticeable difference, that these units were far better than he even realized they could be. And this was not, again, this is not just any amateur off the street. This was a professional in the musical industry. Now, another example of where I start to see this shift is this video from Worship Tutorials. Now, these guys run a great channel, and they have multiple episodes where they demonstrate the latest updates from Line 6 Helix products, the Stomp or the HX Effects or the Helix itself. But a while ago, they put out this video where they were demonstrating some new releases from Line 6. The company put out about 4 or 5 new reverb effect models for their units, and they had gone and collected on this episode the real pedals, and had done this extensive A/B demonstration where they would play through the modeled effect, and then they would immediately switch over and play through the quote-unquote real pedal, the industry standard pedal. And at various points in the episode, you could kind of hear, maybe at one place or another, slight differences. You might hear a little boost in a certain frequency range, or you might hear the saturation of the mix kind of change a little bit when they would switch from one to another. But at the end of the video is where I think that the real kind of illuminating idea comes from. they start to talk a little bit about the moment where they were unboxing and they were kind of playing through the reverbs, the Line 6 modeled reverbs, without the other pedals in the room. Now keep in mind, these two people have played their real pedals for years and years. They are intimately familiar with how those pedals sound. But without having them in the room, they were listening to these models and they were saying, I'm afraid that I probably don't need my pedals anymore, because in the context of playing, they were finding that they were able to get not just usable tones, but really good sounding tones. Now later, they come back and they say, look, everyone does have their own preferences. You have your own preferences. I have my own preferences. One of the people on there, Bradford, was talking about, he says, you know what, even though it sounds good, I'm probably not going to give up my pedal. And that's not my point today. I'm not trying to convince everyone we should get rid of all of these other things. But I'm hoping that you can kind of see that where I see the music gear, the guitar gear industry moving, is we are living in an age where these modular units have truly caught up with what has historically been known to be the real gear, and these digital things have been imitations or knockoffs, and we're just simply not in that reality anymore. Well, there you have it. Those are some of my thoughts about where we are as guitar and bass players in the year 2020 when it comes to equipment. I just really think it's an exciting time to be a player because of all of the opportunities we have and the companies and products we have access to that even 10 or 20 years ago we just didn't. And as I said at the top of the video, these are some of my thoughts. Please feel free to head down into the comments section and disagree with me, or share some other examples that you've seen or read about that maybe support this. And as always, until next time, play on, my friends. Play on.